Hello everybody and welcome back. Our next section here, we're going to cover desert erosional landforms. So what are we talking about? This is our big diagram. It's got all in it. Obviously, if this were a real place, it would be a very interesting place to go visit, get everything all in one area. Anyway, what we're talking about here are the erosional landforms. So places where we have taken stuff away, right? Canyons, right? Something has been carved out, moved out of the area. Formation is from weathering and erosion. It includes things like plateaus, mesas, and buttes, hoodoos, canyons, and arroyos or washes, as well as things like natural arches, which we'll cover in a bit. So first, plateaus, mesas, and buttes. Pronunciation is buttes. You could let it be funny, that's fine. It's going to be a small, flat-topped hill or a mountain. It's taller than it is wide, tall and skinny. Mesa is sometimes similar in terms of overall scale to a butte, a little bit wider than it is tall, and generally larger than the mesa. And plateaus are going to be large, flat-topped hills or mountains, much wider, much wider than they are tall. These can be extensive. This can be an entire region of the planet is all one plateau. Right? In this case, formation is mostly due to weathering and erosion from water. So we look, we got our butte. It is tall, it is skinny, and it is tall. It's much longer vertically than it is horizontally, as opposed to the mesa. It is shorter vertically, longer horizontally, much wider, and the plateau, which is maybe not exactly short if you're there standing and looking up at it, but much wider, longer than it is tall. This is a butte here. We can tell it's a butte because it is taller than it is wide. It's only this wide, but it is this tall, much taller. This, we know that this is a mesa. It's much wider than it is tall here, right? I should say much less tall than it is wide here, yeah. And our plateau. Somewhat tall, if you're standing and looking at it, but much wider. Could be an entire region or area of the country that is all this plateau here. Next we have hoodoos. Fun to say and fun to look at. You have these crazy looking, kind of bizarre columns. Looks like it shouldn't balance, but somehow it does. These are the result of differential erosion of rocks due to differences of hardness. You have one little patch in there which is really hard to erode, really resistant to any kind of forces. And you have other patches in there that are really soft and erode right away and are just gone. Right? So we could break this, right? Break this into pieces. So we have this hard area up here, and then something softer in the middle, which eroded away really easily, and then something harder here. If you look at this one, right, resistant to erosion, and then some layers in the middle there that are less resistant, and then something harder, and then softer. Right? So we have only our hard rocks remaining here, but you can see there's all these different softer layers, which have been carved out, removed somehow. Same thing for this one. Finally, I'll get out of the way for this one. I have these really funny looking stuff here. Much harder rock here, and then slightly softer here, and then much softer rock down here, much less resistant to weathering and erosion from wind and water. Finally, we have canyons. Well, not finally. Next, we have canyons. We have these narrow, sort of steep, V-shaped gorges that have been carved out by a high-energy river. Mostly going to be due to water performing these, such as the big canyon here, maybe part of it, V-shaped valley carved out by streams. We have arroyos, otherwise known as washes. Right? These are mostly dry stream beds that form because they fill up with water whenever it rains. Right? Thunderstorms in the desert, precipitation, said, tends to be sudden and intense. So you get these flash floods, and this is what principally forms the arroyos, the washes, mostly due to water for the weathering and erosion. You would have them smaller like this, wider like this one. But in any case, they're mostly dry. Occasionally when it rains, you get a huge amount of water moving through here to form these. And finally, we have these things called natural arches. So this is what we start out with, move through time, going to the right here, and slowly whatever is lower down must have been softer. It gets eroded sort of preferably here, and we're left with just this harder erosion-resistant stuff up here, right? Like a whole bridge, a whole curved, connected arch shape here. Can be wind or water for the formation. Something like this, very, very famous. See erosion-resistant stuff up here, and whatever was in the middle must have been much softer. Forms this curved arch shape. Final section, we're going to talk about depositional landforms. So we've got all this erosion, we're moving sediment out. But where does that sediment go? Where does it end up? That will be next section. Stick around.